to. What's up, everybody? This is Football at the Bar. We're your host. I'm TA.
This is G Money.
And we are here to sit over and talk about some football. And we are in championship week, baby.
Ooh.
The games were off the hook.
Weren't they now?
Before we get started, though, G Money, hey, I need y'all. I know we at the end of the season. I know most of y'all have shown us some love, but we still get new viewers each and every single week.
Love
I
that.
need you guys to lock in for us. I need you to like the episodes. I need you to download the episodes. I need you to subscribe for us because we ain't done. We ain't done. After this season, we're with you all through the whole entire off season and getting ready back for the next season. So I need y'all to still continue to do that for us each and every single week. Again, like, download, and subscribe for us. And we're being brought to you by ATB Media Network. So with that being said, G Money, what you drinking on today?
I'm in the Jeffersons, you know.
Moving on up?
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it's of the George family. But it's Jeffersons. It's a mix of blended, I think it's bourbon and whiskey. So, you know, this is either going to go real good or real bad. We'll see, though.
We'll see. But does it taste good?
It does taste good.
Nice.
It's smooth.
Yeah.
It's smooth. So, you know, if I get out of pocket, then we'll know.
And I'm drinking a little bit of Claude Chantellier. There's some new French stuff. It's so very good. It's so very tasty. I got to switch it up every couple of weeks, as y'all know, but still on my cognac. So with that being said, let's go on and jump right on into this championship week. And so the first game that we're going to talk about, because I know it's close to my heart because my man, the greatest player to ever touch a football, played in it. And for you, I know because you have to be at the doorstep of this individual each and every single year, at least 2 games a year for your whole lifetime. So let's go ahead and jump into this Chiefs-Ravens game. And I'm going to go ahead and let you start it off. I want to hear your full, unadulterated diatribe about this game.
You know, I hate to give any level of credence or credit to you because, you know, you and your Mahomes love is just nauseating to me. But I will say, Patrick Mahomes, you know, he did what champions do. He delivered early and often in that first half, and it just ruled the day. However, I think that the real problem with that game was the strategy and game plan of the Ravens. So I'll start by saying Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they said, okay, we're going to hit Kelsey. If you guys are going to do single coverage, thank you. We like it. And they just boop, 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 marched down the field, first drive, and scored that touchdown. And then it was like, okay, the Ravens had to wake up. Ravens come down and they score their touchdown. You think that it's even Steven. And then from that point on, I felt as though that was where coaching really played a factor because the Chiefs marched down. They decided that they were, even though they are going up against arguably the best, if not statistically the best run defense in the entire league, but they said we're going to ramrod Pacheco and we're going to still try to throw it targetedly because you know, overall Mahomes had like 30 completions out of 39 attempts in the entire game. But they marched down and they scored again. So it was 14-7. And then from that point on, it was like, Ravens, what are you doing? They literally have the number 1 rushing offense in the entire league. And Edwards had 3 carries. And Hill had 3 carries. And they tried to match Mahomes quarterback for quarterback, throw for throw. And it was just mind-boggling how, dare I say, foolish it was to even go into that game with that kind of strategy because you don't have a superior receiving core. What you have is you have really, really good, or maybe a really good receiver, and then a potentially good wide receiver in Odell Beckham that is sometimey because he's just often injured. He can only give you about five plays a game. And then you got some guys that are sneaky like Nelson Aguilar. And yes, you had your Andrews came back, but Andrews would have been more effective in a play action scenario. But they proceeded to throw the ball 37 times. Mind you, they only lost the game 17-10. And it felt hyper pressed the entire time. You're hearing that Lamar Jackson choked. I don't necessarily think that Lamar Jackson choked. I just think that he's going to get the choke label, and I understand why he's getting the choke label because they threw the ball 37 damn times. And it was like, why when you have the number one rushing offense? And mind you, Edwards, he ran the ball 3 times for a total of 20 yards, and it was like 6.7 or 6.8 yards a carry. And you have a 300-pound fullback. Why didn't you run the ball? And then you could play action to get Andrews open and give him some easy carries. But you played right into Spagnola's hands by not running the ball. Mm-hmm. Mind you, their number one linebacker in Gay didn't even play in the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. It was like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So they lost in large part because of the turnovers. We know Flowers turned it over. It was just a great play by the defense. And you know what? They just had a horrible offensive scheme. And it was like disgusting and frustrating to watch because it was like, why are you guys playing this way? You're at home. You're only down one score. Just boobop them and ramrod them down the field with the fact that you guys have this superior run game, and they did the exact opposite. So what's the name of their offensive coordinator?
Todd Monken.
Monken. I'm like, bruh, it's not like you need to be fired, but come on. What are you doing?
You said something interesting. You said why. And let me tell you something. Fear,
make me take a sip.
Fear is one of the most greatest emotions, but it's also one of the most destructive. Fear will have you doing something outside of what you would normally do. You understand? It really changes behavior. And I believe that's what we saw with Todd Monken. Because yes, they Kansas City scored multiple times early. And Todd Monken kind of went into a type of fixation in terms of we're behind and we're not going to be able to keep up with this team, forgetting that Mahomes doesn't have the type of weapons that he's had in the past, forgetting that this offense hasn't clicked in a way that it has in the past when it's been a high-flying offense. And so when they were down 7 points, he completely abated the offensive plan that they had to go into the game and just started throwing. And so my biggest challenge with this game is the narrative that's surrounding this game. The narrative is, yeah, Mahomes is good, but we don't need to talk about that. And that Lamar Jackson choked. Now, for me, I got to really dig into this because I was able to watch that entire game, and I didn't see an individual that was shrinking in the moment. And that's what happens when you choke. You shrink in the moment. Like you like to say, your pigeon nuts drop when you choke. And I didn't see that from Lamar.
He didn't get pigeon on me.
Unequivocally. What we saw was a player that's phenomenal, that one was trying to fight off the narrative that's been cast upon him in terms of being a run-first, run-dominating quarterback. And so he wanted to pass. That's number one. So he didn't scramble. It's one thing to not have the running plays called. He didn't sit over here and scramble like he should have. But okay, fair enough. That doesn't mean you choke, though. But really what I saw is a pass-catching crew that is not very good. When the narrative around this new pass-catching crew is it's the best he's ever had, that doesn't mean that it's good. Because what we see is he went to Flowers over and over and over again. Now Flowers is a rookie, light in the booty, only 180 pounds, slight in terms of stature. But his real main target, Mark Andrews, didn't completely come back from his injury. He suffered a career, or not a career injury, but a season-ending injury.
Potentially, right?
Potentially. I mean, probably he shouldn't have come back this early. He might have been clear, but that doesn't mean that he was going to be capable of playing at the level that we know he can play at. And we saw that tentative. He was tentative. He dropped multiple passes. We have likely who's played well, but again made some errors in the game. You have Flowers, who as a rookie gave it everything he got. I'm not mad at the effort that he put forth, but he made some tremendous mistakes. He made some young, immature mistakes in the game that
you
cost
talking about
the
that
team.
penalty.
You talk about the penalty. He dove. I love the effort. I'm all for effort. I'm all for going after it. And that was really just a phenomenal defensive play by the Chiefs, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
But OBJ, what we've been able to see is that he's literally a shell of himself, and I'm glad he got paid. After years of kind of maybe not getting paid, I'm glad he got paid this one last time, but he's a washed, go and get him up out of here. Bateman's been a stone cold mystery since he entered the league. And so and then Aguilar, we know he can't catch a baby out of a burning building, coming from Philly. So, although this pass catching crew is better than what Lamar has had an opportunity to play with in his previous years, what we were able to see against a very good defense is that this is not a very good pass catching crew. And so, Lamar has to take the onus upon himself of wanting to sit over here and fit within or go against the narrative that they were trying to lay on him in terms of being solely a runner and couldn't be a passer. But the bulk of the criticism that I have is on the offensive coordinator that really got shook. You don't need to sit over here and completely change the game plan, to completely run away from the run game because you're down 7 points in the first quarter.
You know what?
There's still a whole lot of game left.
Okay. You know what it reminded me of? This game was very reminiscent of, I'm going to use a Raiders game. And
of course you are.
Of course I am. But it reminded me of when the Raiders played the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Because if you
talking about when we were in our early 20s?
It was it 2000, 99, 2000?
It was about 20 years ago.
Here's the point, though. Here's the point. The formula for beating the Buccaneers in that year was running the ball. And I think the Eagles probably were the only team that really gave it to them. Granted, the Buccaneers had to beat them to get to the Super Bowl, but the only team that actually showed success against that particular defense was the Eagles, because they ran the ball, and then that took away all of the speed and the secondary in their cover too, and made them vulnerable, right? So then you have guys that are like can faster the ball and will all close in. Mm-hmm. That the way that you mitigate that or neutralize that is by ramrodding them. And that is kind of what this felt like, because to the point of that game, the Raiders in that game, they had Tyron Wheatley, and they had arguably one of the best run heavy defenses. Now, yes, they had Jerry Rice and Tim Brown and all of that jazz, but the truth of the matter is that the way that they should have tried to win that game was to run the ball and not try to play into the hands of the guy who knew all their schemes in our former coach, right? Mm-hmm. Now, going back to this game,
not to interrupt you, I want you to keep that for all of our listeners and our watchers that were born in the early 2000s. What he's talking about is a game and about people that none of you are even privy to.
Now,
but again, many decades ago, the Raiders actually did make it to the Super Bowl, and they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I told this young man that they were going to lose, that the Raiders are going to lose, and he didn't want to believe me. And I can still remember to this day him being absolutely, completely over his
You gonna have me
So-
go get my okay?
Like,
My sword and my
y'all,
patch.
back in the day, the Raiders played Tampa Bay, and it was a great Super Bowl, but Tampa Bay won. But go ahead.
Okay, so you know what?
I still remember that like it was yesterday.
Okay, I'm gonna move past that one, but I'm glad you gave them a disclaimer
Yeah, just a disclaimer,
and an announcement. But for those historians who want to like look at the comparison to see what it is that I'm talking about that is accurate, it has a relevance in this game
Unequivocally, it does.
because you are talking about the Ravens team who led the league in rushing. Okay, and you have one of the guys that was a mainstay in your offensive scheme, because it's about scheme when you're playing your opponent. It's like
styles make fights.
Styles makes fights. And if you guys can run the ball effectively, what is the one impediment for the Chiefs was the fact that they have not been that effective at stopping the run. And you're the number one.
23rd in terms of stopping the run, in terms of the Chiefs defense. Yes.
Correct. So the defense rests. So then why are we as a unit trying to pass the ball 37 times?
Because, like we just said, styles make fights, right? And opponents against another opponent matters. So when you really look at it, the pass catchers for the Chiefs are not very much better, if at all better, than the Ravens. I think they're pretty comparable. They're both mediocre at best, if not a little bit
and they
less
may have
mediocre.
one shining light,
Correct.
And the fact that they have Flowers, and yes, Andrews has the cachet, and so on.
But let me get to my point. The style that make fights is the play caller. You have Andy Reid, one of the greatest who ever did it, against Todd Monken, who just came from college. And although he came from Georgia, one of the very best college football teams ever in the history of college football, he still came from college. And so when you put that college OC that's now come to the professional ranks and is being an OC against one of the very best professional NFL play callers ever, there was an inequity there.
Okay,
and that's what we saw play out. Is Reid didn't negate the run.
He ran the ball. He ran the ball
because when you've done it that long, you understand that the run is setting up the pass, especially when you have lesser pass catchers. See, back in the day, the Chiefs didn't have to worry about that because you had Kelsey. And then you had
Rice.
No. Back in the day. My man from Miami, who's now with Miami.
What are you talking about?
Hill. So when you have Hill and you have Kelsey, you have Kelsey medium range, you have Hill long range, and you could really elongate that defense.
Yeah.
Well, when you don't have that now, you have to sit over here and run and have a more balanced offense, which is what the Ravens did the entire time. But Monken, because they hit too quickly, he got scared, he got nervous, and changed the overall game plan from what he normally does. Remember, the Ravens are a team that averages 30-plus points a game.
Okay.
And only scored 10 with one touchdown this game. And that doesn't come from just, Lamar Jackson forgot how to play. No, comes down to the scheme that Monken had deployed through the entire season.
I agree.
Not do in this game.
I agree. We're talking about, you and I are in agreement
unequivocally
that it was more about the game plan. So what I was very disappointed at with the Ravens, and you know what, and I have to say, Lamar Jackson, unfortunately, he's going to have to wear this, and this is going to bother him the entire summer because obviously he's a great player and he's all likelihood going to win the MVP this year, even though
it's done.
Yeah, he's going to win it, but this is going to be a sour grapes moment for him. I definitely think that before his career is over that he will win a ring, but this was a prime moment for him. And I have to say that he didn't do what the greats do, is they just say it's more important to just effectively win the game. It didn't matter. He didn't need to throw for 300 yards. He didn't need to have three touchdown passes. He didn't need to do anything. The only thing, let's say, extraordinary, the only thing he ultimately needed to do was win the game. And one of the things that was very disappointing, I got to put that fumble on him.
Unequivocal fumbles on him. A fumble is on damn near on any player that fumbles.
Yeah,
so yes,
because,
the fumble is on him.
Listen.
But that doesn't mean he choked.
No, I'm not saying he choked, but he can't get the stain of that moment off of him, and that's going to live because
the stink is going to linger on him.
Yeah, it is.
My challenge is that mainstream media has two narratives. He choked and Purdy was great. And so we'll talk about Purdy a little bit later. But for me, that's a mischaracterization of what the deal is, because we have to call a kettle that's black.
Okay.
And so at the end of the day is, what we saw is, what you just eloquently described, is that the OC actually didn't call a great game.
No.
And what I've actually spoke upon, and that we can look at this in more detail if you feel the need to, but his pass catchers didn't do anything. The only pass catcher that stepped up was Flowers. And at the end of the day, is he's 180 pounds. He's about, 5'10", 5'11", and light in the booty. I mean, I could sit over here and damn near concuss him if I was on the field with him right now, because he's a little bit too light in the ass. But OBJ looked washed. Bateman is a stone cold mystery that he always is. He's never been anything other than a stone cold mystery.
And Nelson Aguilar
can't catch a baby out of a burning building. He couldn't do it in Philly, and unfortunately, he was completely absent this game. Mark Andrews was coming off that injury, looked scared to sit over and put any pressure on that ankle, looked extremely rusty after not playing for 8 weeks, and likely is sitting over and calling for the ball when he's triple teamed. So when we look at that, his pass catchers failed him. That is just a fact. Now, could Lamar have still risen, put on the cape, and done something greater, which would have been saying, I'm going to take this game and I'm going to put it on my shoulders and sort of and try to win it myself? But guess what? If he would have done that and they would have still lost, guess who they would have all blamed? They would have blamed him.
But see, he's getting the blame either way.
So you should have done that unequivocally.
So here's what I would say as a retort to that. Look, at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson, when he's in his bed and he's frustrated and he's going out and looking on his expensive estate, wherever he is, his palatial estate or his vacation spot, and he's off on the veranda watching the sunset because he's balling. He's gonna be very upset at himself, because it's like, bro, you needed to realize is that you're being compared to the greats. For you to be great, you to be the greatest of the great, you're being compared to Patrick Mahomes. You did not need to match him pass for pass. You needed to win the game. And if that meant that you needed to run for that first down and you can run, then run. If you needed to say, if it's 3 seconds and guess what? Nobody's open because I have these marginal to average receivers out here and I can only throw the Flowers, then I need to take it upon myself. And it was disappointing to see that he seemed almost fixated, pressed. It wasn't choking, but it was like he was pressed and almost trying to prove a point to say that I'm going to win this game from the pocket. And it was almost hubris in a way, whether or not it was also compiled with the fact that his offensive coordinator didn't do him any favors, but he also didn't check out of it. So you kind of want a player when you're only down one score for the majority of the game, especially in the second half, to say, let me be the guy to say, no, this is what we need to do to matriculate down the field and get this score. Yes, he threw the ball to Flowers and Flowers got the fumble off of a phenomenal play. But they had multiple chances to score even after that and before that. And Lamar was fixated on trying to throw the ball. And it was just dumbfounded. It was like, why are we playing like this? You're playing into the strength of the Chiefs.
Let me tell you a funny meme that I saw. And right after the game, a meme popped up on my Twitter feed and it said, Josh Allen is picking up Lamar Jackson at the airport in Cancun at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock in the morning. This shit was just hilarious.
Exactly.
But with that being said, one of my other big problems with how this game is being depicted in the media is that we haven't done enough talk about how phenomenal Patrick Mahomes is.
Oh, here it comes.
And here's where the reality is I know we all get sick and tired.
Happy, joy.
Because this man has sit over here and gotten to the Super Bowl 4 of the last 5 years. I know that's hard for you to sound. And let me tell you something. Oof. We talk about the Raiders every single week, and they don't win shit. So imagine if the Raiders had gone to the Super Bowl 4 of the last 5 years. You would be sitting over here breaking down the doors to talk about the Raiders at least 30 minutes in every single episode. Oof. So for you not to sit over here and see the value, to see to appreciate the greatness of an individual that in his first 6 years of actually playing in this league, he's gotten to his team to the conference championship. Imagine if Aiden O'Connell did that. Do you know what you would be doing? You'd be getting up doing this.
Yeah, I know.
So here's what the twist is. We have to sit over here and we can't just gloss over because we're used to it, because we never glossed over Tom Brady winning for 20 years straight. So we can't have had enough of Patrick Mahomes, and it's just been 6 years of doing this greatness. As a matter of fact, we're seeing a greatness at a greater level than we saw ever in the history of the NFL. And so we have to sit over here and embrace it. We have to talk about it. We can't gloss over it, and we can't sit over and say, forget about him. Let's sit over here and talk shit about the other opponent.
I will say this. Lord knows that I can't stand Patrick Mahomes. But the reason why I can't stand him is because he is great. And
the greatest person ever touched a football.
That will never come out of my mouth.
Yes, it will. No. I promise you it will.
Before we finish doing this show, it will. I respect him like and I'll use a basketball analogy. The same way that I had disdain for Larry Bird in the era of the Lakers Magic Bird era, and then I grew to have a fondness and a respect for the greatness that Larry Bird displayed.
The HBO special just got you.
Yeah, it did. Just a little bit, French lick. But I have to give it to Patrick Mahomes on that, because when what truly makes a player great is that they play great when greatness is required. Mm-hmm. And it was required. He, by all intents and purposes, had an inferior offense by man for man going against the best defense. Now, mind you, what was even more phenomenal about that is he scored basically almost all, if not all, his points in the first half.
Mm-hmm. Got shut down,
and then he got completely shut down by what should have.
But
happened.
You know, when you get shut down, the delineation is you don't make any mistakes.
Correct.
And that's what was special about him.
And I have to say that when he threw that ball to Valdez Scantling, that dude, it was like almost like the exclamation point on the entire game and him as a great player, because he just said, okay, you guys have been beating me up this entire second half, but I am going to give you one last
I'm going to call game. I'm going
to call game, set, and match right here, and take that and put that in your pipe. And you know what I will say with the rest of it. And he did that, and it was just like, damn.
Ain't this about a bitch?
Oh, it wasn't it. It was like, the only thing you can do is tip your cap and just say, man,
Church on the move.
You beat us, and Lamar knew it. So, you know, there's certain guys that they play with no fear and they play with expectation, and then there's guys who play with hope. Maybe not fear, but they play with hope. Mm-hmm. And you could just tell just by the attitude of the Chiefs that they went into that game saying, we're gonna win. And they sure enough
But here's where you gain that confidence, is when you become battle tested. You know, I can tell you some stories that aren't the best for a podcast, but I can kind of clean it up if I can. At the end of the day, is we come from Los Angeles, and we know some of the things that plague Los Angeles and some of the challenges that Los Angeles has in its inner cities and what have you. And there are groups of individuals that sit over here and become battle tested
Right.
in the nefarious um, choices and actions that they take, right? Become battle tested, right?
Right.
And so when you become battle tested at a young age in middle school or
Concrete
early high
jungle.
school, that once you get to a grown up, like none of that you're worried about at all.
Right.
This is a team that's battle tested.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
And they showed it.
And so when you come into this game battle tested versus going against another team that this might be their first, or
this was their prove it deal,
right? That this was their first time of having so much expectation heaped onto them that it can become crushing, unless when you talk about a player like Lamar, who's a 2-time MVP or soon to be a 2-time MVP award winner. But when you have these OCs that sit over here that are not quite battle tested, that their battle testing came from the college ranks, but when you get into the pros and you're playing against the greatest individual that ever touched the football, that it becomes a little bit more challenging. Those nuts, for whatever reason, morph into mice nuts.
Yeah,
and you sit over and start playing and start calling the game scared instead of calling the game from a position of strength. And again, styles make fights. You have Andy Reid against Monken. If you're a betting man, you bet on Andy Reid.
And if I'm going to say
100% of the time, and guess what? I didn't, because I called the Ravens.
Of course,
and I lost.
You did,
but
you lost it happily.
And so it was unequivocally happily.
Yeah, you actually did a hedge bet, because it was like,
I'm gonna win no matter what.
I'm gonna win no matter what. So you was gonna be like, oh, happy day, oh, joyous day, either way, true. Because this is the one time where you're wrong and you are joyous about it. But I will have to say that
if I'm wrong, I don't want to be right.
Hardball really let his team down, combined with Monken, because they, as seasoned as Hardball is, I also have to say that Hardball had an entire half to where he's the kind of he's the kind of head coach, that could orchestrate what it is that we're going to do. And he allowed for them to throw the ball that many times. It was absurd.
As a leader myself, you have to sit over here and kind of give that leash. You got to give enough to allow the man to sit over.
But a leash is just that. Sometimes you need to yank it back and be like, hold on, this is what we're going to do.
But you can't do that the game before the Super Bowl. Either we're going to bowl or fall on the man that I hired to run this offense. This is not the time to pull that leash. If we saw this misconjecture of the offense early on in the season, he could do that. But when we're talking about in the AFC Championship game, I got here with this man. I got to rock with this man.
I don't think that you can be upset if you get usurped in one game that is for all the marbles, and your head coach just says, guess what, fellas? Damn whatever it is that we talked about all week, we're going to run the ball because that's how we beat this defense.
Or you have that conversation at halftime and get on one accord to sit over here and do that. And he didn't do that.
He didn't.
At the end of the day,
he didn't.
You have a mostly a coaching squad that has been here before, and you have another one that hasn't been here in a while. And when they're playing one another, that's when slips can be shown.
Yeah,
that's when the rubber meets the road, and that's when
Look, at the end of the day, this is why the Chiefs are representing the AFC
as the majority of the time do.
I mean, okay. All
I
right.
know it hurts you. I know it hurts
Oh
you.
my God.
You know,
I can't wait for the Raiders to just
but
come in
last thing I
and
want to say about this
smack you
before we
all.
move on to the
Oof.
other game is that again we have to sit over here and really appreciate Mahomes. This is probably the first playoff series that Mahomes didn't come across or feel like he's young.
No.
Like it wasn't like, oh, this young man excelling, playing above his level. It kind of was a mature man playing at his level.
Yes.
This is the first time I kind of felt that. Like I didn't get a feel of this is young Mahomes. No, this is grown ass man Mahomes doing what the fuck he does, which is win and finding a way to win and playing within himself and just a maturity level in terms of his game that I have never seen or felt up until this point.
So,
and then he's just coming into his own.
I agree. This is like him and Kelsey. I think Kelsey actually rose and shone.
He rose to the occasion because he hasn't played well all season. He rose to the occasion.
It almost makes me think of like that. All we do is win, no matter what.
Yeah.
So it was like Kelsey and Mahomes
116, 111 yards, 11 for 11 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
That type of statistical or that type of stat line is beyond reproach.
They're both going into the Hall of Fame. Book it, take a picture, circle it, all of it. Yep. That's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that was on display. Mm-hmm. The thing that I was disappointed going back to the Ravens is the Ravens didn't do what I would say that when the Raiders beat the Chiefs, as an example, they just said, we're going to take Kelsey out of the equation no matter what. We're going to double him. We're going to triple him. And you're going to have to throw it to somebody else.
And that was a defense I thought they were greater than they were.
Yes, because they put granted, Hamilton is a number 14.
Phenomenal.
He's phenomenal.
But
he's a Pro Bowl
Kelsey,
guy.
Because of their experience together, are going to find little pockets. It doesn't matter how great the defense, the defender is. In offense always has the edge because they know where they're going.
Exactly.
And so when you have a player that has as much experience of those two playing together and winning together,
correct.
He were able to find pockets that would allow for that split second. It doesn't matter how great.
I agree.
And they should have done that.
Kelsey runs option routes. So
correct.
It's not I'm going to run a 10-yard out. Mm-hmm. It's like depending upon the zone, I'm going to run this way or that way. Mm-hmm. And guess what? You decided that I'm going to be single covered. Mm-hmm. You're making a mistake if you're going to put single coverage on Kelsey. Mm-hmm. It's just a mistake 10 times out of 10. I don't care if the other guy is Ronnie Lott over there.
Does not matter.
I don't care if it's Deion Sanders. Look, the bottom line is do not single cover that guy. Mm-hmm. And you did that for the first half. And then you got a clue, which is the only reason why they had only 39 yards in the second half. Mm-hmm. But it was too little too late because you guys were hyperventilating on offense.
But let's talk about the dude that you want to throw a party for because I know you're excited. Excited. That's Purdy. So with that being said, let's get into the other game. Because, I know you love your Purdy. And again, the narrative has been that this dude is the greatest thing since sliced bread because Purdy brought them back from a 17-point deficit. Now, before we even get started on this, I have to sit over here and do this disclaimer.
Okay.
Here's where the reality is. I don't know if you remember this when we were kids, and I used to watch this when I was I don't know if you did, but obviously I love football, so anything football. But they used to have a show that came on, it was 30 minutes, right? And it came on around midday. And usually we were out riding our bikes and shit. But every blue moon, you couldn't come out the house or something, or I wasn't out. And they had the bloopers. And it was a whole show dedicated to bloopers that were happening.
Now, see,
in the NFL, hold on. And so, everybody's trying to act like Purdy did something. but the reality is for those of us that are not searching for a great hype to sit over here and arise from the ashes of Tom Brady to fulfill that role. The one thing that I can say is that that pass that he threw that went through the defender's hands hit the defender in his face mask and popped up and happened to fall into Ayuk's hands. That whole catalyst to the comeback was predicated upon a blooper that actual play would have literally been on this show. That was football bloopers. That was a blooper.
Okay.
And by no means stretch our imagination can we use that as an example of this man playing great? Because here's where the reality is if the DB wasn't unfortunately a person with feet as hands and could actually catch a football and then it not go through his hands and hit him in his face, that would have been an interception. And that would have been actually the death knell to that team. It was truly and unadulterated a blooper. And so when I look at that play, when I look at a few other plays, did Purdy play bad? Absolutely not. But he's not an individual that plays very, very good.
I'm gonna let you go
against real competition.
I'm gonna let you go.
And he's not an individual that plays very, very bad. It's hard to play very, very bad when you have CMC, Ayuk, Debo, Jennings.
I'm gonna have to pour a little bit more
for
this
I'm sure, and Kittle. It's very difficult to play absolutely bad when you have an ensemble of those type of weapons. Okay. But you can throw a blooper. And that wasn't his only turnover-worthy play, according to PFF, that he had in that game. That for whatever reason, lucky for him, that they didn't catch. And then when you have, on the flip side, an opposing coaching staff that kind of starts believing in their hype about, we're going to go for it and we're going to be aggressive. And their concern was more about being aggressive than being smart. When you have the opportunity to kick a field goal to go up 3 scores and go up 21 points, but we have to be aggressive. These things in a culmination is what allow this team, with the amount of weapons that he has at his disposal. So do I perceive Purdy as have answered the call? Absolutely not.
Of course you don't.
No. Because let me finish, because I do have some great things to say about Purdy. From an arm perspective, I mean, again, this team, this was one of the very most egregious losses or them losing in the first half that we've probably ever seen in a playoff game. And the return was not predicated, was not ignited, was not triggered, was not the catalyst of what he did. Bloopers and mistakes, a fumble by the rookie Gibbs in their 20-yard, within their 20-yard line, was another catalyst to that turn of events. But what I will say is, and let me tell you something, as much as I'm on Purdy's bumper, what I can say is what had me sit over here and be a fan of him is to watch how he ran in that game. He only had 3 less yards than Lamar. And this is a quarterback that's not known for his scrambling ability. But we saw him run hard. We saw him run fast. We saw him run at the right times. So, again, I'm not anti-Purdy. I'm anti people talking about Purdy being one of the best in this league. Because you put an individual like Dak on that team, and Dak will win the MVP year over year over year. You put an individual like Mahomes on that team, they would go undefeated year over year over year. You put a Lamar Jackson on that team, this is a team that would sit over here and win Super Bowl year over year over year. So Purdy is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's just not great with what the media tries to pump him in as being the great hype for the NFL, because they have to sit over here and find somebody to be the great hype for the NFL. That's not Lamar Jackson. That's the antithesis of Lamar Jackson. That's not Patrick Mahomes. So from everything that I'm hearing today, and we're talking here on a Monday evening at the bar, and I've had the opportunity to hear, 10 shows and hear about Lamar choke, but Purdy's the absolutely greatest thing since sliced bread. You'll never be able to sell me on that, because Purdy's about to catch that ass whooping in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But I will say Purdy did step up.
Okay.
He did do some incredible runs to make sure he kept the team afloat and in the mix and in the running to come back. So I have nothing but appreciation and respect and love for Purdy for that perspective. But nonetheless, this win was born out of a blooper.
Did you get it all off your chest? Did you get it all out?
I just got to keep it 100. Yeah.
Did you get it all
out? You allowed me to keep it 100 before.
I wanted you to get it all
before you start with your
out.
Skip Bayless and the goofy from
on from the diaphragm. Did it come out okay? Do you feel cleansed?
I feel cleansed. Yeah. I do feel cleansed.
My goodness. Yeah. Okay. So, to the victor goes the spoils, sir.
Yeah, okay.
And here's the thing. I refuse to allow your angle to take away from what I will say is the totality of the greatness of the 49ers. Okay, so the 49ers as a team.
Now, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. And I wouldn't say greatness. That's a strong word to use. I would say
49ers is about to beat the Chiefs. Yes, I said it with my whole chest.
Okay, now you're a week early. I appreciate you giving me your call this early, but we still got a week in between. We still have to build some crescendo.
Okay.
But I see how you sit over here and
allow me to go
and bust your load early. Okay.
No, I busted my load. Look, the fact that you gave me all your disclaimers, all of your I don't like him, but I like him. I
never said I didn't like him. Yeah, I don't like the narrative surrounding him.
Okay, so all of that you just gave, right? So just here's the simple thing about Purdy. Just because you brought him up, I'm going to talk. I'll start with him. Yes, did he throw the ball in pressure and it was a duck pass?
It was a duck.
It got picked off, and he had every reason because they were down by, what was it, like 17?
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? The fact that team scored, well, I think it was like 27 in the second half, Purdy had a lot to do with that. Purdy ran the ball.
His running is the only thing that had something to do
with it. It also speaks to what we said about Lamar. So the thing that Purdy did that Lamar did not do is he said, okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
How many times did Purdy run?
Huh?
How many times did Purdy run?
I want to say it was like 6 or 7 times.
How many times did Lamar run?
8.
So is it fair to say that's not an accurate characterization?
No, it is, because it's about, again, different games, different scenarios.
But you compared them to both.
I compared them from the reasons.
But one ran more than the other.
Can you allow me to go? Because you interrupted me right
You're
now,
right,
sir.
My apologies.
Okay, so let me get on my soapbox. Purdy, what he did is that he had, let's say, winning decision making. He understood that, guess what? I need to get out of this pocket, and I need to get out of this pocket right now. And I need to go right now. And that was the thing that when you're watching the Ravens game that you were expecting Lamar to do. Lamar didn't do it. Purdy just
That is
said, guess
fair.
what? This is winning time. Maybe my guys are open. Maybe they're not. But guess what? I need to get out of this pocket right now, and I need to go.
Can I ask you one quick question? If you were starting a team, who would you rather have?
Of course. I would rather have Lamar.
I just want to know because I saw how you were caressing Purdy. I just wanted to know.
No, of course I would. Listen, talent for talent, Lamar Jackson is going to be a Hall of Famer.
Is Purdy?
It remains to be seen.
So he could still be a Hall of Famer.
Because here's the reality of the criteria for Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. It is multiple Super Bowl wins, and it is stats. Now, Purdy is in the beginning of his career. If he messes around and wins this Super Bowl, let alone if he wins another one in his career.
So you have the audacity to say, quarterback versus quarterback, I'm going to sit over here and pick what you just said, a quarterback who is Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, going against the greatest quarterback to ever touch a football. Greatest player. And that's who you're going to pick.
That's your opinion.
What I'm asking you is your opinion that this blooper reel is going to sit over here and beat Patrick Mahomes?
First of all, you know what? You disrespectful. Okay? You need to take that bass out your voice. There, sir. Stop talking about Purdy like he's an also-ran. He does not have the physical gifts of Lamar Jackson.
He ran something like Lamar. He ran something like Lamar.
You still interrupting me.
But he ran something like Lamar.
Okay. He doesn't have the physical gifts of Lamar. But what is true is that when the rubber meets the road, what are the plays that he executed? At the end of the day, Purdy delivered for his team at home. And it's undeniable. The facts are the facts. He ran the ball. He averaged 9.6 yards per rushing attempt. It's just, you can't.
So he's going to beat Mahomes.
Listen, the 49ers are going to
But he's Mahomes. Not. He's not.
Listen,
Mahomes is going to beat the 49ers. I can say that with my chest. You can't say that about Purdy.
I already know because you are all in your
no, don't talk about that. You're dander about Purdy.
I've already told you.
Is Purdy going to beat Mahomes?
Yes.
Okay. Hey.
The answer to your question
you have to own that.
Yes, and I own it unequivocally because the 49ers are a better team than the Chiefs. And I will say that with my whole chest.
Was the Ravens a better team than the Chiefs?
At this point, you have to say no because they lost.
So is it fair to say in a couple of weeks, we're going to have to say the San Francisco 49ers weren't a better team than the Chiefs? Because the Ravens spanked that. Is it fair to say?
Okay. You know what?
I'm just asking. I'm just talking facts here.
You know what? And you cursed.
Is it fair to say that when the Ravens spanked the 49ers, and then the Ravens got spanked by Mahomes?
When great teams play great teams on any given Sunday, somebody can be had. And that's what happened to them. I think that the cards were aligned up to where the Ravens were supposed to have a rematch with the 49ers. But guess what? They wet the bed and didn't get there.
What is going to be the blooper count?
I'm not even going to entertain your diatribe. It's not important. The bottom line is the 49ers won the game. They beat the Detroit Lions, and they did it in a convincing fashion because they came back. Listen, McCaffrey had a stellar game. 2 touchdowns, 90 yards. He did what he did. Their defense, they needed a turnover. They made the fumble happen. Bottom line is, when we're talking about football, it's about who makes the plays and who doesn't. And guess what? The 49ers made the play.
Was that a blooper play or was that just luck?
The thing is that defensive backs are defensive backs for a reason. The reason why they're not wide receivers is because they don't catch the ball that well. So guess what? He was in position. The ball came at him hot. Yes, could he have made a phenomenal play because it hit him right in the center? But he's a DB. It hit him in center and it came in fast.
What position did you play?
I played DB. I played strong safety. And listen, I think I had literally one interception in my entire career. Okay, so
how many did you drop?
Huh?
How many did you drop?
At least 10.
At least 10.
At least 10. Okay, so trust me. What I'm telling you is, they tell you to do this thing with the diamond. I don't quite work like that. Oh, listen, I was so used to hitting people, and I was like, "What? Oh, hold on,
I got a catch."
So again, I'm just you're fueling my point. At the end of the day, bro, he was a DB. He was a safety. He was in the right position. He was all of those things, but he didn't catch it. But the thing is that Ayuk. He should get all the flowers.
Yes, he should get all the flowers because have the presence of mind.
Oh man,
to catch the ball off of a face mask. Hey, and you know what he said? A ladybug landed on his foot, so he knew he was going to have good luck. I didn't know a ladybug landing on your foot means you're going to have good luck. Okay. I didn't even know that.
Does that mean
amazing? I hope a ladybug lands on his foot next week.
Okay.
Or 2 weeks from now.
Okay, well.
I don't know how many ladybugs are in Vegas.
I don't know.
I don't remember seeing lady.
I don't know, but we play on grass, so we'll see. There may be some bugs in there. But look, at the end of the day, this is about manifest destiny. The 49ers were destined to be in this position.
To catch another ass whooping.
And to punch their card and right the wrong of last year, because last year they had no quarterback at all.
Who was their quarterback last year?
Their 49ers, all their quarterbacks got injured.
Who was their quarterback last year?
It was
starts with a G.
Yeah, Jimmy G.
So Jimmy G took them to what? Jimmy G took them to what?
Jimmy G got hurt. First of all, what we do know is all their quarterbacks got hurt, and that's why they lost to the Eagles.
Oh.
Let's not pretend like we didn't see the same game. You saw that they were playing with a third or fourth string quarterback in that game, and that's the main reason why they lost, because they were basically a rock star in every other position. And they're a rock star again.
Okay.
It's just Purdy.
Rock stars lose or losing 3/4 of the game to the Detroit Lions.
I'm going to tell
a team that's never went to the Super Bowl.
I'm going to take great pleasure in watching you break your own television when Patrick Mahomes does not score and does not do the deal, and the 49ers beat that ass.
If that happens, you're going to see me take a bottle, break it on the bars.
Well, Lord knows that I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that because you know what? We need to do this next season, but it would be deserving because because your ass is so disgustingly on Patrick Mahomes.
I love greatness.
Oh my God.
I appreciate greatness.
And you're gonna watch greatness because you're gonna watch the 49ers whoop that ass.
So 49ers are great or Purdy's great?
49ers are great, and Purdy is a part of that team.
Okay, well, let me put this game in perspective. When you have a 17-point lead going into the second half, what you can't have is that a leader, a head coach, feel the need to express his greatness rather than what's best for the game. And it's very simple to kick a field goal when you're 14
to put them up 3 scores.
When you're 17 points up to get you to 21, or to get you to 20, and to get you to you have to actually have 3 touchdowns, not 3 scores, because scores include field goals. 3 touchdowns to sit over here and win the game. And he sat over here and said, I want to be aggressive. Now, I can completely understand that thought process and that mindset. If you're playing a team like the San Francisco 49ers with all that great talent that surrounds a mediocre quarterback, I definitely understand what you need to do to sit over here and keep it going. If you're only up 7 points, yeah, you need to keep your foot on the throttle. You need to keep pushing. But when you're up 17,
and you can push it to 20,
and you can push it to 20, it ain't got nothing to do with that. And so really, this was a coach that was about his hubris, about his
he was like a
vanity.
no. You know what? To me, it was, and Dan Campbell was a very, very, very good motivator.
If I
and a
played
great
in the
coach.
league, he would be the person I want to play with most. So trust me, I'm not hating.
I know you're not, but and he basically played the game of no risk it, no biscuit.
And I love that too.
And he risked it. Now, the thing that might be the separator,
that's a problem. He didn't have to.
And that's what you're. That's
when
what
you
you're
have to,
about.
church. Let's roll this dice. When you don't have to, then that's not aggressive. That's not edgy. That's just stupid.
Okay, so if you feel that way, the only thing that Dan Campbell can say is that, you know what, I'm gonna have to learn from this moment, and
you know what he's not doing because of his privilege, because he can
he's
sit
not
over
going to
here.
the Super Bowl.
He sits over and acts like I don't need to change my thought process whatsoever, and that's when you go from edgy, when you go from aggressive to when you go to ignorant.
All right, so this is probably what some of the Detroit fans probably feel, just like you do. The Detroit fans probably feel that way.
Do you not feel that way? Do you not feel that it's ignorant not to sit over here and kick that field goal when you could have?
I think that he made a decision, like I said, he made a risky decision. I would not have.
Why risk it in the championship game?
Okay, so again, the bottom line is that he, let's say, played the entire season, because we saw this in multiple games with them through the regular season. He played the season like no risk it, no biscuit. He basically went
because it's a regular season game. When we're in the conference championship and you're up 17, you don't have to risk the biscuit.
And that was the lesson that I think, if there's when you talk about, let's say, great coaches, great teams, great players, what they need to learn from their playoff losses.
If Bieniemy did that, what do you think the response would be? We got to learn from it, or would it be he was absolutely stupid?
Well, I think that people are judging Dan Campbell for the decision. I think he's living with the shame of and he's being criticized for that decision. But you know what? Great teams, great players, great coaches have to learn from it. And if they're ever going to get back into that stage and again, then he should make a different decision.
Do you think they have an opportunity to learn from it? Here's the thing is, and what I thought was incredible self-awareness. And he was telling his team this so they keep an edge during the offseason, but I think he really believes this. He said, this was our one shot.
Yeah, I heard him say that.
And that was incredible awareness. And it was incredible wherewithal to actually tell his team that, in my opinion. This was your one shot, bud.
Now, let me ask you this, because I heard that too. You know what it sounded like to me? It sounded like defeatist mentality. And the reason why I thought it was defeatist mentality is because he literally said to his team, we may never get back here.
Is that a fair statement? Only one person wins it. Only one person wins it. 31 teams shit the bed every year.
Of course. But what I thought it was a bad message. For one reason.
I thought it's gonna put the angst in them on the off season, and they can't just sit over and go to Cancun and get past it. But you ain't going to Cancun. But you're not going to Cancun and sitting over thinking we're going to sit over here and surf this away. We're going to sunbathe this away.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the interesting thing. It's like what we don't know, and we won't know till next year, is how the team responds to that. Because to me, it felt very defeatist. Like it was so hard. Granted, we played our schedule, whether it was a favorable schedule or not. We probably will not next year have a more favorable schedule.
Probably, they're not.
They're not going to have a more favorable schedule, so it's going to be that much harder. So we're going to have to be that much better.
I didn't think it. I didn't take it as defeatist. I thought that was the one brilliant move that the coach made, was to sit over here and hang something around their necks
to have them
until
think
next
about
season to keep that crawl on their side, so they never get comfortable. They never get okay with this loss. You can only coach from the sideline. These players have to play. Now, you can sit over and fuck your players off by sitting over here and making stupid ass choices by not kicking it when you should have. And just to kind of dive in a little bit deeper to that, they called the right play.
Yeah, his guy just dropped it.
But this is what happens when you talk about percentages. They all talk about analytics, but don't want to look at the actual numbers. The percentages are far lower with you having to make a pass from a quarterback to a wide receiver in that type of scheme, in that type of time period in the game, in that type of setting, than it is kicking the field goal.
I will not say that A, that you're wrong, or that B, that he's wrong. Because the thing is, if they did make that catch, he'll look like a genius.
But he don't got control of it.
Right. So at the end of the day, what we're really with respect to his post-game talk, I thought that it was setting the team up for, and again, this will be about how the team responds to it. It's setting them up for failure because they know that they will have a more formidable schedule next season. They will, because of where that they place themselves this season.
As they should. So the real question is what does our man Brad, the GM, what does he do to fortify, to plug in the holes of this team? Because they should.
And they don't have a lot of holes.
They have some holes on defense.
But they don't have a lot of them.
They don't have a lot of them, but they have. If you have 6 picks, they all got to count.
Yeah.
To sit over here and replicate the success with this new schedule.
Yeah.
That you had this year. So that's where it gets a little bit sticky.
The beautiful thing about the NFL is that depending upon schedule, there are too many teams that are going to be relevant to even try and typecast, because the margins are so small that this just happened to be the year that, you know what, the Lions, they got there.
But the team, no. This is happening to be the year. This is a team that was put together to do this.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they got there, and there's not a huge difference in terms of their offense and their offensive output. There's not a huge difference from versus like 7 or 8 other
but here's
offenses.
The thing is, with Ben Johnson about to get a job at Washington, that's where the difference is they're going to have a whole new OC, and that's what will balance. That's what's so brutal about this, is that you had one shot before your OC goes, your star OC goes, who was supposed to get a job last year, and then he re-signed because he got more money. So when you have your star OC that goes and you don't make it this year, then how do you make it next year with a brand new
that's
OC
what Dan Campbell was saying.
That's going to be not as good as this OC. The only problem is all you had to do was kick a field goal. This is why this has to sit at Dan Campbell's lap. Is at the end of the day, it's not golf.
No, Jared Goff.
Dan Campbell had to sit over and kick a field goal when it made sense and was smart enough to kick a field goal.
How about this? Shanahan, who has proven this 3 out of the last 4 seasons to be the more dominant presence in terms of the NFC every year. And he has lost a couple of his star players on defense to injury, but yet and still, they're in the Super Bowl.
Hey, the problem is that every time he tries to take one of these weak quarterbacks like a Jimmy G or a Purdy to the Super Bowl, he has to go up against the greatest person who ever touched the football.
I can't wait because you know what? That has been your mantra. That has been your call sign.
G, we talked about earlier the Raiders in Tampa Bay. And way back then, I told you early the Raiders were going to get spanked. And you didn't want to hear it. And you had these same diatribe. And so guess what? I look forward to sitting over here and getting in them cheeks again.
¿Cómo está ustedes? Please believe it. I need you to understand and absorb my chant because guess what? The 49ers are about to beat that ass, and you just need to go ahead and feel all of that.
I love that energy because that allows me to be even more ignorante.
Oh my God! So you know what? This is a clash of ignorance because I'm going to be a complete donkey when the Chiefs lose. Just understand that going in.
Hey,
okay.
If the greatest that ever touched the football loses to Mr.
Irrelevant, see,
hey, guess what? I will have to sit over here.
Yes, you will.
Down there.
And yes, you will.
And the one thing is, when you really think about that, if you were in my seat and you weren't just a hater, you were in my seat and looking at this objectively, there is no way in the world you would sit over here and latch your deal to Mr. Reid relevant going against the greatest football player to ever touch football. That's like saying Cordell Patterson was beating Tom Brady. It probably wouldn't make any sense. You'd look like, I would never go against Tom Brady. He's going against Cordell Patterson.
But guess what? These are not guys playing quarterback drills in a vacuum. They are going team for team. And guess what? The 49ers are a better team.
They were better than the Lions. If it wasn't for the coach being a jack, the Lions would be in the Super Bowl. But also, the league was never going to allow the Hood Bowl. They was never going to allow the Detroit Lions against the Baltimore Ravens. Under no circumstances were they allowing that. Because you guess what would happen if the Detroit Lions were playing the Baltimore Ravens? Viewership would plummet.
I will always say this, and for the record, because I disagree with you.
Oh, do you think people would tune in to see that?
No, not that people will. I'm not concerned about what people would tune into. I think that the Chiefs beat the Ravens straight up because they had a superior strategy.
Do you know?
Period.
Do you know the amount of penalties that the Ravens got at home versus the Chiefs?
Again,
it was 3-1.
Superior strategy. What I would say to you is that guess what? We're going to have a clash of the Titans, buddy. It's going to be Purdy you versus me.
Purdy is not a Titan.
Guess what this? You keep wanting to break it down and simplify it to quarterbacks. It's not quarterbacks. It is the 49ers and all their splendor.
You got to tell these cats at ESPN and all these networks that it's not quarterback. Because whenever it was Tom Brady, it was always about the quarterback. I get exactly what you're saying. we got to sit over here and watch this unfold. The beautiful thing is we got a couple of weeks to talk about this. Next week, when there are no games,
Sure.
I just have the opportunity to sit over here and not just talk to you, but who else are we going to talk about? Who else are we going to talk to next week?
I'm more than, let's say, pleased, and I feel actually really happy that one of my friends, David Richardson, former NFL player, great dude, played in the league, came up undrafted, made it to the league, became a starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stud guy. And he played in the Euro League too.
Okay.
He's gonna sit down and talk with us and give us a perspective on the NFL. So I'm real excited about that.
Next week we have an opportunity, just like we had several weeks ago, when we had Byron on, to have another former NFL player on here to sit over here and talk about this game with us as we go into the Super Bowl week.
And I hope he talks about how you are a donkey and you do not need to be giving all this Mahomes love, even though I don't know what he's going to say.
You know what's so exciting is when you have an opportunity that's played the game, have the opportunity to have somebody here with us to play the game. What traditionally happens is they traditionally come on my side, and then you get upset because you're on my side, just like Byron.
Well, I'm not coaching beforehand.
I'm so excited to have this individual on
me
here.
too.
We're gonna get a chance to talk to a real professional, an individual that's going to be a future NFL, probably head coach in our lifetime. So, ladies and gentlemen, very excited. We have a huge week of shows, of a show next week when we have another guest. And guess what? Y'all are going to sit over here and make sure you tune in. Just because there is no NFL games, we're going to have some unbelievable NFL content. And again, you guys have the opportunity to tune in and hear the truth.
Yeah,
science,
from a guy who's done it.
The art, and agrees with exactly what I'm saying. And we're going to leave G-Buddy here in the dark.
I can't stand you. Okay, fine.
That being said, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm tired of you disrespecting. You disrespect.
Don't disrespect.
But hey,
it's going to be a great week. I'll see y'all next week.
All right, we can cheat glasses. I don't like you though.
We'll see y'all next week.
Yes, sir.
ATB.